Hi guys. How's it all going?
All right, let's just do a quick check and make sure you guys can hear me okay. If you can see me, if you can hear me, make sure we're live. Drop me a hello in the chat. Let me know where it is you're tuning in from. And then I'll know that you guys can hear me okay. Hi Anthony. Hi Mohammed. Hi Maggie. I'm going to pop this in the chat as well, just in case. Just checking the setup. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. All right. I think it's okay for my end, guys. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay. Let me know if there's any issues and I can fix that before we dive in. Now, welcome to the first Mooncake English live stream. This is my first ever live stream, so things are going to be a little bit messy today. As I'm figuring out how we work all this system and make sure that everything's set up okay. So let me know. Can you hear okay? If you can, we can get started. Echoing. Let's see if we can fix that. How's that? Any better, guys? Hopefully that fixed the problem. Let me know if that's still echoing or if that's a bit better. That's why. Hi, Sadia. All right, I'm just working out this mic issue. Still echoing. How's that, guys? A little bit better? Hopefully that fixed the problem. Webcam. Let's see. All right. How's the echoey there? Davino, let me know. How's that? Is that any better? Fantastic. Thanks for letting me know. So, as I said, welcome to the first Mooncake English live stream. As I said, it's going to be a little bit of a mess today as I'm figuring out how we do this. You know, never done live streams before, but it's been a while since I posted, and I really wanted to connect with everyone. And before I start posting again, give everyone an opportunity to connect with me and answer some of your questions. So yeah, today we're just going to have a nice chilled chat. I've got my coffee. Well, it's hot water because it's a bit late here in Canada. But yeah, I've got a drink. I hope you guys have a drink too. And yeah, we can dive straight into it. So as I said, today I want to answer some of your questions, and I posted on Instagram and on YouTube just to reach out and see what questions people had. And I thought it'd be a great way to start would be just to take one of those questions, answer that in a little bit more detail, and then I can dive in and hear what you guys have, what questions you have, and offer my advice and feedback on that and see if I can help you that way. So the first sort of focus I thought we could concentrate on today was about dealing with noisy students. And I posted about this earlier. I think that's something we all struggle with. So I thought that could be a really fun way to start. But stay to the end, as I said, because I'm going to give you a chance to, ask your questions and, hopefully be able to help you. So let me know in the comments where it is that you're tuning in from. Hi, Ray. Hi, Fernando. Yeah, let me know where you are, guys. As I said, I'm currently based in Canada. I've been here for about a year now. I know most of you know me as Mooncake in China. But as I say, I've moved and that's where I am. So let me know where you are so I can see where you're tuning in from. And it gives me a little bit of a better understanding about your kind of situation, as every class seems to be a bit different depending on the country that you're in. So let me know. I also wanted to give a quick intro about me. I know some of you might be tuning in for the first time. This might be the first video that you're seeing from Mooncake English, so I wanted to introduce myself. My name's Gemma Perry, and this is Mooncake English, where we make ESL teaching easy. I've got over 10 years working in the ESL kindergarten industry in China, and I've worked started working right from the beginning as a teacher, thrown into the classroom, not knowing what it is I needed to do as a teacher, how to engage students, what games to play. Literally, I think the first class I ever taught, I danced to the Five Little Monkeys song and my kids ran around in circles. It was a complete disaster. But what I found was, through that lack of support, what experience I did gain, I'm now able to share with you guys. And that's why I created Mooncake English, to help and support teachers in this similar situation. So if you're teaching for the first time, or if you've been teaching a while and you're struggling, hopefully these videos can help. And these live streams is something that I want to do on a weekly basis, so I'm able to connect with you guys. So again, this is going to be another avenue where you can connect with me, and I'll better help you with your classes. All right, so let's see. Ray is in Japan. Hey, Ray. Davino is in China. Yep, whereabouts in China? Japan, I don't know, other than Tokyo and the larger places, I'm not sure, but let me know whereabouts. ELT Experiences. Hi there, from Korea. And he's wondering how things have panned out after China decided to reduce the private English teaching industry. That's a great question. So for those of you that aren't aware, China has been a massive sort of place for teaching English, for teachers to go find work. The market there has been enormous, and there's a big pressure for students who are based in China as they're growing up to learn English and learn a lot of extracurricular activities outside of just the normal kind of school activities. So the government to crack down on that and to help parents with the pressure of bringing up children, given the population crisis there at the moment, have started to sort of crack down on this and try to relieve that pressure on parents by taking away those after-school activities. And English schools and English lessons has been one of those things. So as I say, I haven't been in China for a year now, so I couldn't comment on the current situation. But when I left, it was definitely very challenging. It was getting much harder to find teachers. After COVID, a lot of teachers left China, but also to teach English because there were so many restrictions. I'd love to hear anyone else's experiences who's in China at the moment. So if you are in China, let me know in the comments what your experiences are. But when I left a year ago, there was definitely getting much harder to kind of run those English programs because the government really didn't want you to run them. Oh, Ray's asking me to make more videos again. Yeah, that's the plan. This is the kind of the first step back into the YouTube world. And as I say, today's just going to be super chill. I'm going to answer your questions and just, let you know how I am and let you know that I'm here, as I know lots of you have actually made lots of comments about where I've been and how I'm doing. And some of you were worried about if something had happened. And yeah, it's been a very kind of interesting couple of years through COVID in China and then transitioning. As I say, I'm now in Canada and I've been here for the past year. So it's been a lot of changes and a lot of challenging times, as I'm sure we've all been through over the past couple of years. But now things are settling down. I'm back and I'm ready to focus and hopefully help you guys with some more videos. And as I said, this live stream's the kind of first step towards that. So Maggie's asking if I left China. Yes, I did. So, the reason I left China was kind of due to COVID, not necessarily COVID itself, but just how the situation was in China after COVID. It was extremely kind of tense. There was a lot of restrictions there that were great at the beginning because it allowed the country to then open up again. But after the country opened up, there were still lots of things in place that made it very challenging. It was a very constricted way of living, which, after a while for me just became too much. And I decided that, I needed to move on. My time had come to leave China. And China had been home for a really long time. As I said, I've been there for over 10 years. It was almost 11 years when I left. It was home. And it was really, really difficult to make that decision to leave. But it was time for me, and I'm really glad I did, because I'm, as I say, in Canada now. I've been studying for a master's degree here, and I've been really enjoying life. So, yeah, thanks for asking that. Am I teaching in England now? Nope. As I've just explained, I've been I'm in Canada. I've been studying here for the past year. ELT experiences is saying it's always nice to take time off YouTube. Definitely. And I think that was another element why I did take a break, because work and, lots of people don't understand kind of the work involved with YouTube. And when I was in China and I was posting on a regular basis, I had a full-time job. I was the program manager for 23 schools across China, and I was working on YouTube. And YouTube took at least one full day every week to be able to put out the videos at that pace. And my job had a lot of overtime. And one thing that happened over COVID as well is that I transitioned from this kind of program manager role to a principal role of a school. And again, that took up so much of my time, so much of my energy and my focus, that there just wasn't time for YouTube. So I had to, as I say, take that break. And I needed it. I think creatively, for creative reasons as well. I think I became a little bit tired with how I was making the videos, and I wanted to kind of revamp them and make them a little bit more fun. And that's what I've got planned coming up. So yeah, the break has definitely been good. What have I been doing in Canada? I've been studying this past year. I've been doing a master's in communication and settling into life here, because, it's very different to life in China. And it's been a really big transition, going through all that kind of culture shock just adjusting to life here. But it's been great. And as I'm coming to the end of my degree as we come to early next year, I'll be back and able to do Mooncake full time. That's the goal. So, all right. So as I said, today I'm all about answering your questions, but I did want to start with one that someone had asked online. And that was, how do we manage those noisy classrooms? And, I think this, as I said, this is something that we all face, right? Noisy classrooms can be really challenging because you're trying to teach. Maybe you have one or two students who are being disruptive or are just noisy, and you can't get them to calm down. Or maybe the whole class as a group are just being too noisy, and you're finding it difficult to get them settled and get them calm again. And there's 5 different steps that I wanted to share today. As I say, I posted earlier about it, but I wanted to talk on here just so I could go into a little bit more detail about how I kind of tried to manage that noisy challenge in the classroom. And the first one is clear expectations. And this is, I think I talk about this in my classroom management video. It's really important that we're letting our students know what our expectations are. So if we go into the class and then, we haven't talked to students about the rules of the classroom or what we expect from them as we're going through class, then it's not really fair when they make lots of noise and we get frustrated with them, right? Because we haven't let them know. And you've got to remember, they're only, 2 to 6 years old. So they're children and we need to support them and be very clear with what we expect from them. And this might be a case of going through the rules at the beginning of the class. So if your students are a little bit older and they're going to better understand that kind of concept, then we can go through the rules, and if students have a higher level of English, I always try and encourage teachers to explain why we ask students to do certain things, So if I say, we listen to our teachers, that's great, but it's kind of like a command, right? It's like, just have to listen to my teachers. So I always ask students why, why do we have to listen to our teachers? And usually a lot of them won't be able to answer. Well, I ask them, when we're at home, who do we listen to? And they'll better answer mum and dad. And so I ask them, why do we listen to mum and dad? And they'll be thinking still, and of course, they're still young, so we have to help them a little bit. And I'll ask them, well, who gives you food? That mum and dad. Who gives you a bed to sleep in? Mum and dad. Who gives you cuddles when you're feeling like down? Mum and dad. Who loves you? Mum and dad. Who protects you? Mum and dad. So we listen to mum and dad when we're at home. So when we're at school, who looks after you? Or the teacher does. Who gives us food? If you're in kindergarten, full day kindergarten, our teachers do. Who gives us a hug when we're feeling down or if we fall over? Who looks after us if we get hurt? Well, the teachers do. We love you, so we need to listen to us to keep us safe and to be able to have a nice classroom environment. And by, as I said, this is for students with a higher level, and you can simplify your language to help students understand that. But by doing so, we're giving them reasoning and helping them understand that we're coming from a place of love and not a place of authority, because nobody likes to be told what to do when they're in the classroom, right? If you're at work and someone is just saying, don't do something, and you don't understand why you're being asked to do something in a different way or not do something in that way, it can be really difficult to kind of accept it. But once it's been explained to us that we need to do things in a certain way because of A, B, and C, then we're able to accept that and we understand it much better. And again, it helps with that relationship. Clear expectations right from the beginning. And even with our younger students, we can do that with those lower level students. Then we can demonstrate, right? So we can do that kind of like, do we scream? No, do we need nice indoor voices and outdoor voices? And we can demonstrate perhaps with our assistant teacher, or we can practice being noisy and being quiet just by that kind of hand movement. So we go really, really loud, and we shout, no. We bring everyone back down again to a quiet level. So even students with a lower level, we can still kind of communicate that in a really simple way by using TPR and simple language. The next one is positive reinforcement. And this is something I really talk to with my teachers a lot, because I've gone through classrooms where teachers are really struggling with their classrooms, really struggling to get kids under control. And what am I hearing as I go through or go past that classroom? I'm hearing, no, don't do that, stop that, be quiet, sit down. And that's all I hear. And that's all that our students are hearing as well. And if we focus on that, we're going to hear and see more of that behavior. So we need to think about the kind of behavior we want to see, and then we need to encourage that. And how do we do that? Well, we highlight it as we see it. Oh, Jenny is sat so quietly. Thank you, Jenny. Oh, Jenny's got her hand up before speaking. Thank you, Jenny. Oh, Jenny is using her indoor voice. I really like that. Well done, Jenny. And so by using this positive encouragement and highlighting the behavior that we want to see, we're showing our students that they can get the attention that they want, which they might be the reason behind why they're making so much noise, by being quiet, by raising their hand, by using their indoor voice. But if we're giving all the attention to being loud in the classroom, we're just going to start seeing more and more of it. Also think about, other elements, your language in the classroom. That's another point that's really essential. Again, like I said, if we're constantly saying, don't do that, no, stop. Or if a student is being loud and we say, be quiet, Jimmy. Again, it's that kind of like authoritative kind of way of talking to our students. But yes, we are in a position of authority and responsibility, and we're looking after our students. But at the same time, they're individuals, they are people. So we need to think about the language we're using. So perhaps I can rephrase that. Instead of saying, be quiet, Jimmy, maybe I say, Jimmy, can we use our indoor voice, please? and again, kind of like TPR in action with it to help them understand. And by just changing our language that way, by using that positive reinforcement, we can really change the whole environment in the classroom. So again, really encourage you to think about, really listen to yourself or listen to your colleagues when they're in the classroom and see what kind of language you can hear from them. The next point I wanted to point out is quiet transitions. And this is another mistake a lot of new teachers will make as well. And that's when we're transitioning from one activity to another activity, we get students all excited and really loud and happy, and they're having a great time. But then when we want them to be quiet again, we've not helped them calm back down again. And we're just expecting them to sit down, to be quiet, and just make that transition by themselves. It never happens. Our students just aren't wired that way. We need to help them calm down first before they're going to be able to move to that transition. And that just involves a bit of planning, right? So if we're doing an activity that might be loud and quiet, we'll make sure we finish that activity on the quiet rather than the loud. Or if we're doing, a dance or a really active dance, after that we've finished that, we might finish with some slow tiptoeing or some slow robot movement that slowly gets us to sit down. So we're still engaging with students in a really fun way. We're still having, we're still doing a transition, but we are calming them down and bringing them into a nice quiet state before we can then move on to that next activity. And as I say, that's a really common mistake. It's a mistake that I made a lot when I first started teaching. I get the kids all excited, and my poor co-teachers used to go crazy because I'd get them excited, and then I'd hand them over to the Chinese teachers, and they'd go crazy because the students are all just riled up. So think about your transitions. How can you transition by making that switch from a very high activity to a much calmer, low activity, which makes it easier to make that transition. Next is attention grabbers. Again, this is just another way to get students' attention, to let them know perhaps they're being too noisy, or to help quiet them down again. And attention grabbers can come in lots of different forms. It might be, I've got a video I think on attention grabbers you can go see. I think I've made a couple of videos on sort of call and repeat attention grabbers. So, attention, 1, 2, or it might be hocus pocus, everybody focus. There's lots of them out there. You can Google them, check out my video on attention grabbers. And again, you can use those to grab students' attention, but it's really important that we're teaching students these attention grabbers at the beginning of our class. Again, it goes back to that setting expectations, right? We can't expect students to just know what we want from them. And if students are being loud and they are noisy, then you're not going to have their attention to be able to teach them that attention grabber. So at the beginning of class, we need to practice it. We need to introduce it to students, have them practice it a couple of times. And then as you start the class, while you have students' attention, we also want to then test it, right? And we can make a joke out of it. We can be like, we'll go back to the whiteboard or whatever, we'll turn around and be like, hocus pocus, and just test them, right? And again, it just makes it fun. And it makes them pay attention to those words. We need to train their ears to understand that when they hear that, they need to respond. Other things you can use in the classroom are kind of more practical. So you might have like a little bell or a whistle. I wouldn't suggest a whistle for in the classroom, but if you're doing activities outside, a whistle can be great. You can also use things like a stoplight. That's another great thing. You can, again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can just make it out of some cardboard or some paper and let students know where the stoplight's at. And if it's on green, it means that our sound levels are at a good place. If it comes to orange, well, we're getting a little bit loud now. And if we get up to red, well, we are too noisy and we need to wait for that stoplight to come down again before we can continue with our lesson. So you can think about some practical elements as well. And then, of course, there's just signals, hand signals. So as I said, again, I use my hand a lot, and I used to do this with students. I'd have my hand up when I want students to be louder. I bring it down when I want it to be quiet. Sometimes I would just, again, it depends on your class. I might put my hands on my head. And again, I'll set these expectations at the beginning of class where I'll tell students if they see me with my hands on my head, they need to put their hands on their head and zip up their mouth. Like this. And we'll practice it a few times. And then again, if things get too noisy, get a little crazy, then I'll put my hands on my head and I'll sit and wait. And this works with some classes. Once you have got their attention, once you've built that rapport with them, this can work. But if this is a new class, then you have to be very careful, because otherwise you'll just be stood there with your hands on your head and the students will be dancing and going crazy. So know your class and figure out which kind of attention grabber was going to work for you. And the last thing I just wanted to mention on noisy students is just to remember to be patient. It's really challenging for students to control their emotions. If they are excited, if they are high, if they are being noisy, they won't necessarily realize that they're doing it. And so we need to help and support them by being patient and reminding them. They're not going to just get it straight away. If we say, okay, we're going to use indoor voices, you just tell them one time and then that's it. Students are going to be quiet. We're going to use their indoor voices. It doesn't work like that. We're going to need to remind them. It might take a month to get your noisy class under control, get them used to using indoor voices and being nice and quiet in the classroom. So that takes patience from us as teachers, right? And it can be frustrating because we're trying our best to really, create these fun lessons for students, but we're having this issue where everyone is just noisy. So we have to be patient. We have to understand that they are children. They're going to need reminding and they need patience. So that was the main thing I wanted to go through today, was those top tips for dealing with noisy students. Gilbert has just joined us. Greeting from Guangzhou. I've been to Guangzhou, did some training there. Hi, Gilbert. I'd love to see what questions you guys have in the chat. Let me know. What are you struggling with right now? What issues are you having in your classroom? And let's see if we can share our experiences. I'm going to take a sip of my hot water while we're waiting. We've got a nice group in the chat tonight from all over. Japan, China. Gilbert says, thanks for the useful tips. You're welcome, Gilbert. I hope that helps you with your noisy classes. But tell me, guys, how are things going for you? What's going on in your classroom? If your things are going great, let me know what's going great as well. I'd love to know. Gilbert says he's learned lots from me. That means a lot, Gilbert. Thanks so much. I hope I'm pronouncing that as well, Gilbert. Davino, okay. Fire away. Davino has a question. Hi, Ben. I don't think I said hi to you before. While Davino is writing out that question, I also wanted to share with you guys, although I haven't been on YouTube for the past couple of years, it doesn't mean I haven't been working behind the scenes on some exciting things. And I have been putting together an online course to help new teachers that are starting teaching for the first time, that are struggling, knowing what to do in terms of classroom management with their planning. It's called the Confident Teacher Program, and that's exactly what it's there to do, is to help you with your teaching confidence, get you feeling proud and happy in the classroom so you can enjoy teaching. Because I know when I started, it was a nightmare just not being able to do what I needed to in the classroom because I just didn't have any training or support there. And that's really why this course has been designed, is to help support those teachers that are starting out and are really just feeling completely lost. So if you want more information about that, drop me a message in the comments or drop me an email at gemma@mooncakeenglish.com, and I'll be happy to have a chat with you and see if, learn more about your situation and see if that's something I can help you with. Okay, let's see. Davino, how do you get your students to speak English in the class, please? They're just accustomed to speaking Chinese. This is a great question. And I think it's something that we all kind of struggle with. With teaching English, we have to think about how students learn a second language. And just kind of teaching some students something and then expecting them to be able to produce that instantly it just isn't kind of realistic because it's not how students learn. If we think, I don't know if you've ever put yourself in a situation where you're in another country. When you first hear another language, it can be really challenging to even break up the different words within a sentence, right? We have to train our ears to break up the sentences, learn that language, differentiate the different sounds, and put together meaning with those different words. And so that's listening skills, right? And that's something that we learn first. That's what comes first in the classroom. So if you're working with students who are lower level, it's all about input, giving students as much English as possible that they understand. And it's only through that, once they start understanding, can we expect students to then start producing. Production comes second, listening comes first. And now that's not to say that we can't have students repeat different things, but that understanding element is really important. So, sometimes saying no English in the classroom can be a little bit detrimental to the way the class goes, because we say no English, no whatever native language, we say English only in the classroom. And what happens is everyone shuts down, because maybe they're talking with each other to try and understand what you've said or to participate, but they can only do so in their own language. So what we also need to try and do is understand their meaning. If you don't understand, if they're at a level where you can interact in different ways, you can ask them to find another way to explain what it is that they're trying to say. Because if we can understand their meaning, what we can do is then repeat back in English, they understand, and then again, it's that input which then later starts to produce that output. So, I wouldn't stress too much about it if you're working with lower level students. If you're working with higher level students and they're just refusing to speak English, that's a different matter altogether. And again, it comes back to that kind of positive reinforcement, encouragement, and again, depending on the age, putting some restrictions in with the language use. But if we are talking about lower levels, remember that it is going to take some time before they're going to be able to produce the language. I hope that's helpful, Davino. Let me know if you have any further questions with it. Hi there, have you had students who would just not listen or follow classroom rules despite being as patient as you can be? How do you deal with that? Absolutely. I think this is something, again, we've all come across with different disruptive students. We call them disruptive in the class. And it's a really difficult question to answer, because there's so many different ways to approach it. And it's really first about recognizing what's going on with that child. Is it that they have a 0 English level and you're teaching a higher level of English and they just don't understand anything that's going on in the classroom, and that's why you're finding this behavior, because they can't follow, they can't participate in the class because they just don't understand anything. Or it could be the opposite, where students have a much higher level of English, and what the level at which we're teaching, because the class is a lower level, means that student's just bored because it's too easy for them. So that's one element we can think about. Like, is it a language level issue? And if it is, we can give them specific tasks to do in the classroom that will adjust for their level. So when it comes to asking questions for them, we can adjust the way that we ask, the language and the expectations. We can encourage others in the class to help support that student. Or if that student's a stronger language learner in the class, we can have that student help participate and encourage others. Another thing I found helpful with these kind of students is giving them responsibilities. Because again, it depends on what that student's needs are, but some of the time it's just that they want attention. And this need for attention might come from situations at home. Maybe parents are working, and this happened a lot in China, where both parents would be working full-time, all the time, and they didn't have the time to give their kids. The students weren't getting the attention that they needed at home. So they start to see this kind of behavior in the classroom. Now, if that's the case, then what do we want to do? We want to give them positive attention. So we can encourage them by giving them some responsibilities, praising them for that, and using positive encouragement, positive reinforcement to help encourage the kind of behavior that we want to see. Now, is that easy? No. Does it happen straight away? No. But that's the only way to really start building that rapport with students that helps get them to engage with you in the classroom. And again, then there's other issues too. I had one student that had some serious anger issues. And it all stemmed from a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-esteem. So every time, they would lose at something or they got something wrong, instead of just laughing it off with the rest of the class, they would get so angry and they would lash out. And again, what's the issue there? Self-esteem and self-confidence. So we need to look at ways that we can help boost that student's confidence, help boost their self-esteem. And this just might be simple things by even saying, oh my gosh, I love your t-shirt. You look so handsome today. Why do we say these things to kids? Kids' clothing wear is not fashionable to us, but we say it to help boost their confidence and encourage them. And so we need to find ways that can help that student. So what I would suggest is think about that student that's in the classroom. What's the issue? Like, what's the reason behind that behavior? And then you can start to address it. Hopefully that helps you out. And I'm so sorry I can't pronounce your name. Plotzlich? Probably did not get that right. Sorry, I've just realized you've said a bit more detail. So add a bit more detail. Students are super unruly. Again, I suspect it's about that attention element. So, and again, it comes down to what is the reason behind that behavior, then setting clear expectations, using positive reinforcement. And when I say positive reinforcement, it could also be simply saying, hey, little Jimmy, today you were able to sit down for 1 minute without disrupting someone. And yesterday you only sat down for 10 seconds without disrupting someone. And I think that is a great improvement. Everybody give Jimmy a clap. I think that's really good. And I'll have the whole class give him a clap for showing improvement. So we're still not, again, it comes back down to showing, highlighting the behavior that we want to see rather than focusing on that negative behavior. And I would also have conversations with students before and after. And again, let me step back a bit, back to those clear expectations. We need to let that student know at the beginning of class, and again, this might be one-on-one, like, okay, I know you're struggling to sit down, but this is what I need you to do today. Can you do that? And if you can have like a mini conversation, again, depends on their language level, see what their needs are. How are you feeling today? Oh, I'm a little angry today. I'm not happy today. Well, what do you need in the class? Do you need to sit on the side here? I don't want you to disrupt other people. And again, it's an element of you coming to them as from a place, I want to help you, rather than an authoritative person who's like, you will do what I say, we're in class, I'm the teacher. And once students understand that relationship is different, that you're there to try and help and support them, then they start to open up and you're more likely to get that respect and have them listen to you. I hope that's a little bit more helpful. Fernando says, what should I teach to 6-year-old kids? That's such a broad question, Fernando. So I think there's several elements that we need to think about when we're thinking about what we should be teaching students in the classroom. So age is one element, right? So if we're teaching 6-year-olds, we're not going to be teaching them quantum physics, for example. So we need to think about what's an age-appropriate subject for a 6-year-old. And what do we come up with that? Well, we think about what is in their world. What are they doing? What are they learning? And we can come up with subjects there. They might talk about having gone to the zoo. They might have talked about going to see the fire station. So all these kinds of elements, things that are in a 6-year-old's world, these are where those subjects can come from. But in terms of like what words do we teach, or what sentences do we teach, and what songs do we use, well, this is all very specific to your class. We have to think about that English level. And again, this is something we talk about in the Confident Teacher program. It's understanding the stages of how students learn a second language and how we then adjust to that. So if we have students that are in a very early stage in their learning, if we're teaching them things that are full sentences, for example, as I said, they're not going to be ready for that. If we're asking them to produce a response to questions when they've never learned English before, that's not a realistic expectation. So we need to think about their English level. We need to think about their age and find age appropriate and language level appropriate things to teach. So think about it. If it's a fire station, great. That's something that that's in their world right now. Okay, what's their language level? Okay, they've never learned English before. Okay, so we're going to start with just learning some basic vocabulary, for example. We're not going to start with prepositions, as that's going to be too high for them. But what we can think about is the pace at which students will learn. A 6-year-old is going to learn much faster than a 3-year-old, for example, or even a 4-year-old. There's a big jump between a 4 and a 5-year-old. So again, it's thinking about pace. You're going to be able to go much faster. It's really about understanding that 6-year-old, what's in their world and what their language level is at the beginning. Think about those things, and that's where you're going to be able to start making a plan of what you can teach for that student. All right, let's see. Davina says that was helpful. Great. Ask Lad. Hey, nice to see you, Emma, after a long time. Are you still teaching in China, and what city? So we've just gone through that a little bit. So I'm not in China anymore. I'm currently in Canada. I've been here for the past year. Made that transition over. Anna Clara L. What do you recommend when it comes to teaching 10 to 12-year-olds? My group is quite crowded and loud, and sometimes it's hard for me to keep them focused. So yeah, we've just been talking about 5 top tips for dealing with that noisy kind of classroom. So if you go back, and if you've missed that, we can go back at the end of the live stream and talk and check those elements out, because I think that would be really helpful. And as I've just said, it's really about understanding, okay, we've got 10 to 12-year-olds. Again, there's a bit of a difference in the child development between those two ages, but understanding what's in their world right now, and thinking about what's age appropriate to teach them. Thinking about their language level. So again, if we're talking about brand new learners, we're not going to be teaching full sentences. We might just start with some simple vocabulary, but understanding that they are going to learn much faster, and the pace of your class is going to be much faster. In terms of classroom management, again, I think some of the things I've talked about with noisy kids in the class, a lot of those elements come back to that classroom management, right? So it's really thinking about your transitions, setting clear expectations, using either point systems or other sort of reward systems. They can work well, especially if you're working with lower level students. But I think rather than going through every details, I'd say check out my video on classroom management. That's going to help you with in terms of control for that age group. But in terms of like when it comes to what to teach and things, think about their age, what's in their world right now, and what their English level is. Aslad add some drama in your teaching and use some attention grabbers. Yes, I'm not sure that's a question, but I hope that's good. Anna Clara is also asking about what we mean by attention grab, by drama. Maybe being TPR and being a little bit energetic with our movements and things. And again, it depends if we're working with those lower level students. We absolutely want to make sure that we're being animated. All right. So I think we've gone through most of the questions, guys. And I think I'd love to know, let me know in the comments what has been. Oh, we've got one more question. All right, we're going to make this one the last one, guys. Gemma, did you make any videos about mixed ability classes? I haven't done a video on that, but I think that's a great idea, because that's one of the difficult challenges, right? Is dealing with those mixed abilities. I think also dealing with mixed ages, and a combination of mixed ages and mixed abilities can be very challenging. So I'm going to jot that down, and I think that's something that I'll make a video on a little bit later. If you guys have any other ideas and things that you want videos made on, or tips and ideas, let me know in the comments below. As I said, I'm going to start posting again soon, and your video ideas. It's great to know what you guys need, and I can help make videos that are going to really help and support you in the classroom. Okay, I've got very, very last question from, is it Gawan? I need some advice for teaching 2-year-olds. Yes, 2-year-olds. I think everybody struggles with 2-year-olds. And there's several things to consider with our 2-year-olds. First, we have to think about, again, that stage of development where they are at the moment. And our 2-year-olds are very self-centered. It's all about them. They can't share. They can't wait. They can't listen for very long periods of time. They have very short attention span. They need movement. And they need constant input, let's say, throughout our class. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give teachers that are trying to teach 2-year-olds is to plan every element of your class. And when I say every element, I mean you need to have something happening all the time. And most of the time, songs and chants with TPR is exactly what will keep their attention. You cannot pause your class for any moment in time. If you pause just to turn around and grab something and you can't find it and you're taking a few seconds, there's 2 students run off and gone already. So if I'm going to turn around and I'm grab something, I'm going to sing a song and make sure I keep some eye contact there as well. I'm going to be like, oh, I don't know where my flashcard is. Oh, I can't find my flashcard. You know, just keeping that attention and the eye contact and making some funny sounds and noises and singing as I'm trying to find it. What am I doing? I am actually giving them some input because I'm saying what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But at the same time, I'm keeping their focus and attention. And then when I find it, I might do a little whoop, you know, to again bring that focus onto me. But every element of your class has to be constantly sung, done with a chant, something to keep the students focused. You cannot stop for 1 minute. When I introduce things to 2-year-olds as well, things like new words, songs, getting them to stand up, getting them to sit down, I chant everything. And one of the other mistakes I think a lot of teachers make with 2-year-olds is they'll change the class every day or every week. And for a 2-year-old, they learn at a much slower pace. So we can't expect them to digest too much too quickly. And so for a lot of my 2-year-olds, I'll do the same lesson for 2 weeks before I'll then change things up. But at the end of that 2 weeks, what you'll have is students feel safe, they'll feel calm, and they'll know what's coming. And students at this age really need that routine and repetition. And they'll start to feel comfortable to start singing and joining in because they know it. They've had that time to digest it. So my biggest tips for 2-year-olds, make sure you've got your whole class planned. You're singing and chanting all the way through to keep that focus on you. And make sure that you're using really simplified language points and using repetition over a long period of time. So a week or 2 weeks, depending on whether you're teaching for once a week or every day. But give them time to digest the information that you're giving them. Hopefully that's helpful for you. That's it. That's it for today, guys. I think we're going to call it there. It's been so fun chatting to you. As I said, this is the first live stream. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have got a lot out of it. Let me know in the comments below whether what was the biggest takeaway for you guys in this chat today. And if you have video ideas, tell me what you guys need so that I can make videos that are going to be really helpful for you. If you're, as I said, I've mentioned I've got the Confident Teacher program is now going. So if you are a new teacher who's struggling, managing your ESL classes for kindergarten, then drop me an email at gemma@mooncakeenglish.com, and I'd love to chat with you and find out more about your situation and see if I can help. That's it, guys. Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and I'll, as I say, look forward to chatting to you again next week. Bye, guys. Bye.